You ought to know. Well, now you ought to know by now. Ooh, you ought to know. Well, now you ought to know by now.
Yeah. Ooh, coming in hot. Chance, turn the audio off on your side. Hello.
Hey, what's up, man?
There you go. I think the music is coming in on your side. Yeah. Let me see
See,
here.
I'm rusty. I had the stream playing. Is that what it
Jeez.
was?
Yes, it
We good?
is. I still hear. I can hear myself. Is it on
Weird.
my?
My,
Is it
I
on my
must be
side?
on. I'm on stereo, not multi-channel. Maybe it's on your side. Because when
Me.
I'm not talking, there's nothing happening on my mixer. It's all
Ooh, that
no
is my
bars.
side. Haha. There we go. How's it
How
now?
dare you?
How dare me? Oh, geez, there's always something. Well, at least everything's coming in nice and strong. Everybody out there, tell us if our audio is doing good. Our visuals look good. Chance, it's so good to see you again, man.
I missed you, buddy, but I also missed all the people. I've been away.
Yeah,
Haven't been doing as much.
yeah, your little girl is going to be having her birthday pretty soon here, huh?
We
You're
just
almost
did. We did it.
nice.
She's one.
That's incredible. You survived the first year. That's
It's
wonderful.
actually the best. Yeah, so that's my life right now is doing a lot of dad stuff, tuning people. Not as fast of a production schedule for content, but that's okay.
No,
We're building back up. I feel like this year was me starting at square one with a new life and then building my way back up. So we're gonna get
definitely.
there.
Definitely. I have to say, you are always upping your game. That's something I always appreciate about you. Whenever I do pay attention to what you're producing, you're always like leveling up, man. You always have like good audio. You always have new visuals. You're like really doing excellent work in that way. So I'm always excited to see what you're producing.
Oh, thanks for saying that, man. It's been a year of quality over quantity has been the mindset
Yeah,
mantra, which turned out to be like quite a lot less quantity. But I'm learning some new tools, getting some new tricks, and making music. That's something I never thought I was going to be allowed to do in this life. I wondered what was in store for me this year, being 36, right? Because that's the first house year,
yes,
and there's kind of like a emergence of new identity aspects that might come into play with that. Fatherhood was one, but the tools to be able to produce my own music was definitely a surprise, and I'm kind of hooked on that.
yeah. Are you using Suno? Is that your beast?
Suno is the beast. It's the only one
Nice.
really in the game, but I'm experimenting with different things as I make new tracks. What I think makes the music that I've been creating a little different than most AI music fare is I'm treating the AI like an instrument rather than the whole package. So I'm getting my stems and my instrumentation and my vocals through that, but I'm getting a bazillion different versions of the prompt that I'm feeding to it, trying lots of different prompts, and then I'm getting those parts and I'm putting them together in the interface and layering them and choosing the arrangement of them, just like electronic music producer would do with stuff they recorded more manually, analog or with synths and stuff.
Do you
So
wear
it's
the
pretty fun.
Kango to the side and like have like big sunglasses on and like smoke a spliff out the side and be like, I'm a British DJ when you're doing it, when you produce your music?
Not that anyone knows of.
I know. I know exactly.
No, the
I know
spliffs are
exactly
gone,
what.
dude. Yeah, it occurred to me that there was nothing that needed augmenting about how much I enjoyed life anymore.
Right.
You know.
Well,
Yeah,
welcome
but
to
they
my
were a
world.
big part of life. It was kind of a surprise that I'm not attracted to it at all anymore. Maybe that's maturity and being a dad. But everything's so good. Like, it would be a side grade at best to get stoned. Maybe
Yeah.
a downgrade.
Well, you're using your prefrontal cortex to its full capacity. I find people that really use their prefrontal cortex to the full capacity don't like to augment reality. All of my clients and friends that like to augment reality through excessive drug use, it's because there's something going on with the front of their head that's just off. Have you felt that in people's biofields? Like, have you worked on people that have like a fixation on augmentation and felt like something hazy in this area?
I actually came across that today in a way. Although the augmentation was not substance, it was like, the substance was more like cortisol
Yeah.
rather than it was like that kind of addiction vibe. But yeah, there was a whole like energy put like projected around the front of the head, like a screen in a way. It's interesting.
Yeah. That's something
I
I
actually
felt.
just came across that today. That was
Yeah.
a very, very relevant question.
Yeah, I felt that in my practice for about 11 years. All the people I knew that were like really specifically with cannabis in a very strong way, all of them, when I'd be doing cranial sacral work and going up through the occipital lobe and then come over in the front of the forehead, I'd always get like this, like it was almost like my hands would go numb. And like it was like my fingers were like moving through mud without it being wet, if that makes any sense. So that's
I'm gonna
something.
shout out the chat. Braden Moses in the house. Beth Martins,
Yeah.
Stella, some Christian Sipherd. Good people here.
Yeah,
Good to
man.
see you all.
Cypher Bear, my man. Beth Martins. We be crushing. Wendy up in here. Dawn. It's good stuff. So I have a bunch of things. Do you want to show your video, speaking of your Suno skills?
It's your party, but if you want, we can do that. To me, it might not be something people are like stoked to talk about right now, but the AI revolution, where a lot of truther oriented channels are super focused on the boogeyman, Terminator, Skynet storyline, whatever about that, I'm thinking this is amazing. I think that this technology, you talk about cybernetics a lot, right? And
Yeah.
for me, I look at everything as mind, right? Like that Hermetic axiom, all is mind. And if that's the case, if all of this is in our head, then the only real difference between objects that exist in the physical material universe are their qualities, and those qualities are narratively derived for, you know what I mean? Like, what's it for? Why do we use it? What's the purpose? Like, what's the meaning? And so with the technology that, regardless of if it's AI or a telephone or a lever, everything technological is a plagiarization of something that exists in nature already.
Yeah, where I'm going with it in my consciousness, and I've been doing a bunch of spots with people about it, is because my conditioning is in Vedanta Advaita. And in Vedanta Advaita, you actually look at your own thoughts as being synthetic. You look at everything that you're experiencing, anything that can be experienced is a secondary characteristic. And you're always reverting and into being, and the being is that which is aware of things. And so what I've been seeing with a lot of the like the personal area networks and like I've talked with Chris Crutchfield last week. I did an interview with Sabrina Wallace. I've been studying how the intrusion of cybernetics is actually prompting us with thought. And for me, I feel okay with it because I've already trained myself to actually filter my own thought. But where I want to go with people is actually teach them that, like teach them, because I have to teach this to my clients, my friends, my loved ones. I even have to remember it for myself a lot of times is the majority of thought that is occurring, we identify with it as it being ours. This is my thought. This is mine. And because it's mine, I, me, my mind, we anchor it and make it more important than it is. And in Vedanta Advaita, you decouple from the anchor. You don't put the I, me, my mind on it, and everything is just a continuum. Everything's just moving through. And then that way, if there is an intrusion, like say you have like some used car salesman that wants to sell you something, but they're doing it through some sort of digital Bluetooth signal, you can just disregard that too. It's like the whole nitty system. It's just like not this, not this, not this, not this. And when you free yourself from any stimulus, because thought is overrated, when you actually let go of it and you don't identify with it as being yours, then you actually are open to what I would call the genius impulse. You're open to the what's the best word I could use for it? Epiphany, because you're not actually sitting there trying to think things out, or you're not taking a suggestion and
it's
then
more like you just let it happen.
Right.
Watch it happen.
And when you watch it happen, guess what? Guess who's doing it?
Yeah. I'm with you on all that. The whole sort of BioField hacking element of Internet of Bodies, Internet of Things. It's one of those topics where on one hand, I'm like, I don't even want to talk about it because I don't want to like boogeyman people out. On the other hand, there's a real outsourcing of consciousness that a lot of humans do that have not sort of trained their awareness or their mindfulness in the ways you're talking about. But when I'm talking about the AI stuff, the generative AIs, right? I look at the same way I look at this conversation over a Zoom call being a manifestation of mind's ability to instantaneously communicate across distances, because distances are a mental concept, not a physical. Like
you're the man to talk about this, so let's get into
like
this.
to finish the thought, the ability to generate an image or video or a song through language prompts, to me, is a manifestation of our innate capacity to create at the speed of thought, but it comes through this framework of technology external to ourselves, because that's the story that we're comfortable with accessing that level of our power through.
Yeah.
Right. But really it's no different than if you could just think something into existence, other than you would be freaked out if you were doing that all the time. So we need to like at least slow it down a little bit.
Slow it down.
Put it outside of ourselves so that we don't feel so responsible for the incredible power that comes along with that level of creative potential. But see, that's how I see the generative AIs, is like, oh, sweet, I can finally create at the speed of thought with language as the tool itself. And I'm really loving that. But yeah, go ahead. I just want to get that out.
Yeah, this is so great that we're having the conversation when we are, because we've had this delayed a couple weeks now. I spoke with Eileen McCusick yesterday because I had this thought, because I've experienced what I would call synthetic intrusion, like actually having a synthetic BioField or synthofield. In my latest Substack, I write about the synthofield. And not to be scared about it. I'm not saying it like, oh no, oh, the cyborgs are going to get us. And I brought it up to her, and I want your opinion on this, is that the way just like, an organic human or an animal or anything living has a biofield, I've become aware that there are certain programs in surveillance that have such a strong context for getting certain data points that I can actually perceive them as having a synthofield, like they have their own field. And it's just kind of referring back to what you just spoke about. If it's all mind, like if mind is the primary principle first, and we're observing all these different
what is a biofield other than, you could break down what a biofield is to be information in a particular flow and coherent structure.
Right.
And
right.
These surveillance things you're talking about, when they reach levels of complexity, I mean, it's literally information in flow in more and more complex and potentially coherent structures. So,
yeah,
and that information comes through a sort of observational awareness, and these, again, technologies that plagiarize nature's capacities, like eyeballs and cameras, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's I see what you mean there. I don't. There's a psychological component too, of the fact that always the shadow or the backside of the whatever you're looking at. There's always the other presence that we feel, but we don't quite understand. Like that just is a natural part of his bifurcated consciousness requirement, like the duality requirement to exist in I'm me inside this body, thinking thoughts, experiencing a world. You know what I mean? Like there has to be this othering presence that is always there. And the more, I think, the more attuned you get to empathetically to the people and environment that you're in and around, where you really sense them, feel them, you have their circumference, you're tuned into them. I think the more the sort of nebulousness or like the almost intrusiveness of the feeling of the other becomes an alien feeling, rather than the people around you being like, I don't understand them. Why are they like that? They're mysterious. It's like we just start to feel like there's some kind of alien around, because that other feeling has got to be a component of material reality existence. And I think that's the onboarding point for the schizo train, for people that are like,
yes,
spiritually awakening. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can feel the causal plane a lot of times. That's where my level of sensitivity and training has gone. So I have felt I have felt a synthetic presence from the causal plane. And my question to Eileen specifically was, one, do you think that's a possibility, or am I just making this up? But she thought it is. Like, she definitely is like you. She's like, yeah, that is a thing. And two is the context that I'm feeling from the programmer of, like, so the reason why all this came up was in my studying of the next wave of economics. The next wave of economics is going to essentially be all credit-based. And this credit-based system is going to be working through IOTA.
Tokenization.
Yeah, it's tokenomics, right? I'm just saying this not for but for the people that are listening. And essentially, the securitization of our biometrics is pretty much what's going to be our bank account. And with that, what's happening is a lot of this technology that we've all onboarded, they work in bands that are suggestive to our thought space. That's what Chris Crutchfield had really illuminated for me. And Sabrina Wallace, she doesn't say it as cleanly and clearly as he does, but they're both saying the same thing. And so what occurs is, It's like we've all done this, right? Like for me, it's Instagram. I'll go on to Instagram and oh my God, they post an ad for exactly what I was thinking about. And
There's
you
another
get,
way to think about that.
hold on,
too.
hold on. Everybody goes, oh, it's reading your mind. It's reading your biometrics. But it's actually, it goes one step prior to that. It actually suggests that thought to you. You have the thought thinking it's your thought. And then you get onto your device or whatever, and then there it is, mirrored to you almost immediately. And so when that's occurring, that whole pre-suggestion thing, I can see is one of these ways in which we can, in a economy that's based on all the commerce being through biometrics, it's one way that the people at the top of the game can rig the game, right? So let's say something is being suggested to somebody at a certain age, in a certain age range, and they know that that will create a certain level of cortisol. You brought up cortisol earlier. That suggestion is being, inferred by the electronics around the person, and because the person doesn't have the wherewithal to know that that thought isn't their thought, they will do the I, me, mine to it. They'll own it. And then when the actual external, the extrinsic signal through a screen comes to them or whatever it is, then they have the cortisol rush. And then there's securities that are made on that saying, oh, that's a totally organic event. Okay, XYZ security now is made and such is, actuaries change. So all this is something that we have to be kind of aware of. It's not just this like pie in the sky, like completely naive thing where, oh yeah, we can just create. There is, just like we were talking earlier about people that are always, dosing on some sort of drug, there is the suggestive aspect of our consciousness that we have been taken away from being aware of. And yet in our environment right now, we're being flooded with more, EMF smog than ever. And we're being flooded with all these different types of microdosing that one might just call all the microdosing just all suggestions. It's just making everybody hyper permeable. I can see all of this as a way of really guiding the ship in a certain way in which the monitoring apparatus is doing its thing along with making all these suggestions that people have no idea are actually coming to them. And then therefore making decisions based on things. It's all from the movie Inception was brilliant because the movie Inception showed, if I think it's my thought, if it's my original idea, I will go to bat for it. If it's somebody else's idea, nah, my ego is going to take it up, tear it up, and devour it. And
now, I don't know what is and isn't really possible in the realm of biometric suggestion implanting Inception style. So I'm not throwing anything out that you said. But the other side of the coin for me is, what about, where's the space for premonition and presentiment? What about when you think of somebody and then they call you? Is that that's not something being implanted into your head in this way like you're talking about? Could we not just think of something that's about to happen because we have
I'm not negating
capacity too?
I'm not
so
negating
to me,
that.
it's a little hard. I just like to, I'm just saying, I like to lean on whenever I have those Instagram ad moments where I was just thinking about that thing and then it pops up. I just tell myself, yeah, I'm psychic, rather than I had this idea planted in my head. To me, that just works better for my ego.
Yeah,
I'm psychic.
I get that. And that's the thing. A psychic person is more susceptible to the suggestion. So that's the thing, is this is something where I can hyper educate people on this, because I was in essentially a test case scenario in the world of medicine work, right? And I became hyper aware that that mental space that everybody was getting into was a space that was occupied by a synthetic program. Now, that's not negating that within that space you can't have authentic experience and can't have your own authentic psychic whatever. I'm not saying that I'm not saying it's all synthetic. What I am saying though is not to be naive. Not to be the person that's just like, "Oh, look how psychic I am. I just did this and look, it's there." No, no, no. That's it's such a sophomoric way of going about it. Like there's a reason why all this electronic media is being put in front of people, and it's not benign. And it all goes back to insurance actuaries. It all does from a loot perspective, from a securitization standpoint. And I'm not saying this as being scary. It's just a thing of like you actually have to be educated in what it is. The majority, I'm telling you, the majority of desires that people have are not their own. Before electronics, Christians were calling them demonic. Pisces, like any person I know that is a mutable sign, whether they're Virgo or Pisces or whatever, when you're mutable, you are just like literally open. You're open channel, and like things are just moving through you all the time. And if you sit there, hold on, and if you sit there and identify with it all, that becomes extremely problematic.
I notice on a BioField level, one thing that's really common is people's desire faculty is so co-opted, and you're describing a mechanism that occurs that they really don't have authentic desire that comes from within. Like,
Right.
this is a skill that I've been having to try to navigate how to teach people in sort of the counseling aspect of energy work of, and it's different for person to person in some ways. How do I get you to the point where you feel like you want something, like you want it? How do I get you there? And, I was saying this in one of my recent Inner Circle podcasts that I do for members, but I was talking about this from the perspective of working with the plant ginseng as a really good Kickstarter to this kind of healthy desire energy within oneself. That does, like in the river of abundance, the flow of abundance in one's life, of receiving the support, nurture, material necessities, and just playing good things that are pleasurable in the material world. Desire is the current in that river. So if the desire is blocked or does not exist, I guess, it's always there, like buried maybe, but if it's blocked, it's like that abundance flow also slows down to a trickle, and then people find themselves in these. I think that it's interesting that, as to me, on the economic side of this, right, that as the machine has implanted false desires in people, overriding their connection to authentic, internally derived desire, that also it's the same time that like wealth disparity and wealth transfer, cost of living, all of these things are in such a disproportionately outrageous place for the average individual, where it's like we have all of the appearance of affluence, but like, man, on the debt level and on the hanging on by your fingernails level, in terms of like paying the bills, it's wild out there. And I think that has a lot to do with the disconnect from desire in a way. And then not to mention all of the sort of religious, the prior strategy was to beat desire out of people as evil and sinful with the religious program. So it's a different strategy now. It's like, let's just put, instead of calling desire sinful, let's just put literal sins on top of them as their desires instead, and just, glorify that.
Yeah, and I think people have been disconnected from their hands. That's a big thing. Like I went through this whole odyssey that you're talking about during my first Saturn return. I had to get back into the earth. I had never been grounded in my life. So one of the ways I work with my clients to get them in their vibration of the cut, their authentic, shishumnik, connection to their creator, is because to me that becomes synonymous with desire flow. Is I actually get them to ground and use their hands, because there's something intrinsically human about using your hands. I mean, ever since you've had your baby for a year, your hands are so much more active and actually, touching and feeling and caressing and all these things.
The baby now, when I pick her up and she like hugs back and she pats me on my shoulder, and
Yes.
with her little hand, and I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This topic is the like occult or esoteric meaning behind the Crowley quote that everyone freaks out about: "Do what thou wilt will be the whole of the law." Like the esoteric meaning behind that is your true will is when you find your true will, it's that which is identical with the will of the creator.
Yeah, I think that gets taken way out of context.
Yeah. I mean, people don't understand it that way at all, and I think people take that statement as like a sort of dark magic excuse to maybe do whatever, or that's how it's imagined that people are taking that in occultism. But the true meaning to me is obvious. It's the capital S big self. What it wants is what, when you're in alignment, that's what you want, and the two become synonymous. So when you really whenever your goal is to know thyself, yeah, it's the kind of another way, like in terms of little advice, one-liners that come up for people in sessions, is like, you got to learn that your way of doing things is the right way to do it. But that requires such a level of trust in your own goodness that you're not scared that means you're selfish, or that it means screw everybody else, but that my way of doing it, or what I want, this is another one to like really figure out what I want is what's best for everyone. Not what I want, like I want what's best for everyone, but what I want without even thinking about everyone, what I want is what's best for everyone. And that, that's going to sound satanic to people that don't understand the fact that the point of really tapping into that is your biofield and that sacral flow that your desire, churns that abundance river with. It's a fractal miniature of the universal biofield. And so when you overlay your template on that template, you're matched up with it. There's no difference, so literally what I want is what's good for everybody. It becomes the truth.
So this gets back to what I was earlier talking about, the syntho field. That's because you're a good person, and there is your upline is the good, true, and beautiful. There are those, and I've come in contact with them, that their do what thou wilt is not for the benefit of people, even though God will make it the benefit of everybody, in the largest context.
That's the little caveat for sure.
Yeah. So I just want to put that caveat out there, because there is a force out there that is deleterious. It's not deleterious in the longest run, because obviously that's God's realm. But in the short term, there are people that get, their biofields get so corrupted that a lot of times they'll just be an absentee landlord.
Yeah. If it helps to language it better, you could even say, rather than what I want, you could change it to what's best for me is what's best for everyone.
Yes. That's much cleaner. That's much cleaner.
Much cleaner. And it is important to fix those things up, but it's, that's the overturning of the messiah thing, that we all have to sacrifice ourselves for the crowd, and then everyone's sacrificed. We all take care of ourselves, or we all do what's best for ourselves, and then everyone's taken care of. That's the uprighting of the inversion of the messiah.
Yeah.
Hey, but now that we have a good little crowd, can we show my little?
Yeah. Do it.
Do I do it?
Yeah.
Do I do it?
You have to ask
how to do this.
Ask me to share, or ask permission to share, and I'll give it to you, and then you share.
Sounds good. Sending request. Okay, so let me talk about this a little bit. I have not shown this to anybody except a few friends, including Gabe, who's in the chat. What's up, Slick D?
Yeah, Gabriel.
One of the things I've been doing this year is making music, as we alluded to, and I make the music as intro music for podcast episodes that is based on the topic of what the podcast was about. So this one hasn't been premiered yet. It will be within a couple of days, but it was inspired by a conversation I had with Michael Wan, and I think we should just watch it, and then it's like 3 minutes, and then we'll talk about, you know, some of the layers of meaning behind it or what we think about it. But I'm really excited about this one because it's one of the first times I was able to, I think, successfully make a character that is a consistent character throughout the video. So this is AI. I'm using AI video generation for this. I'm trying to tell a story, trying to capture the themes of a really complex conversation with Michael Wan. You know, one of the things that we discussed was some of this, like Charlie Kirk, Snake Eyes, you know, that movie, and like the synchronicities that belie these and preview these pop culture hero sacrifices and all that. So, okay, I think this will work. Let's see. Unsupported format. Oh, okay. Let me try this again. I'm sure I'd get it. Let's try this. Before? No. What format does it need to be? Okay, we'll figure this out. Tech difficulties.
I don't know. I don't know. Let me see. If I
Here we go.
blow it.
Here we go. I got it.
Good man.
Okay. All right, let's see. You know, let us know if it doesn't work in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to assume it's working.
Draw your hand, roll the dice. Looking for truth on a device. The one behind the curtain grins.
Welcome back. Let's play again.
For every game there is a prize. Forgetting is the entry prize. I'm the dungeon master exposer. I laugh and tip the table over. Snake eyes winking in my feet. A copy of a copy bleeds. Simulated safe perform. Realer than real becomes the norm. Heavens wrap the dream. The first and final screen. Time is place and place is time. Every line
That's awesome.
I mean, who can really resist some spaghetti western like
I can't.
with horns and like I wanted something that had some swagger energy to it as
Yeah.
well. It's just what I was feeling.
No,
Yeah,
that's beautiful, man. That's so good. I love
thank
that.
you. I'm trying to use the tools for good.
Definitely, definitely.
You know,
I'm excited about Suno and some of these other AI programs because I had this novel come to me in 2014, and I got a little bit dejected because I was like, it's more when I started to write it, I was writing it like a movie script, and I was like, Hollywood's never going to produce this. And I know in just like a couple years, I'll be able to like make the whole movie. Like I just know like with all my prompting and everything like that, it'll be such a kill because the storyline was like a complete and utter gift. And to be able to do that with AI in the near future without having to have to go through some small hats in Hollywood, it's just like, it just makes
yeah,
me,
I have one of those in my pocket too for someday, and I've been riding the wave of what's possible with the AI tools, all year, and it's just insane the difference between, you can see it in the episodes of my show that I've put out this year where there's these custom intro tracks. But what is fun for me is to be able to tell the message that I feel like is the core message that I always want to return people to, and the energy of it in a different medium than just conversationally.
yes.
Like that lyric, "When I'm born is where I'm at." It was just the most perfect,
Perfect.
one-line capsule of Michael Wan as a podcast show guest,
Yes.
right? The birth chart, the natal chart as a navigational tool. It's your, the way I would describe it is your natal chart is the ticket that tells you the seat row and seat number in the big circular arena where you're watching the disco ball of source
Right.
for your life, for the life show. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like it's literally your position to look at the big fractal prismatic source disco ball. And you're in that seat, even though the movie is changing, you're in that seat the whole movie.
Right.
That's your seat. So when I'm born is where I'm at. Time and place. It's not time and space. It's not space time. It's place time.
Right.
So there's a distinction there. You know what I'm saying?
Bro, you're getting it, man. I've been saying this forever. The core tenet of sympathetic vibratory physics is frequency is location.
Yeah.
It's saying the same thing. It's saying the exact same thing. And when you're this nubile, being that, comes we leave one matrix to enter another matrix, one womb into another womb, so we're always in the womb. That location, that signature, that timestamp is that frequency, and so much can be gained from knowing how to not only read the frequency but play it.
Yeah, and also, how about the Neo cowboy? He's
I
like
like it.
flying through digital tunnels. I mean,
But bro, all the one eye symbolism, dog, is freaking me out, bro. It's freaking me out, man.
yeah, the dungeon master had one eye, and the cowboy had the other eye. Did you guys get it?
It's almost like they're mirroring each other. It's like they
hint.
complete. It's like they complete each other.
They're the same guy. You are the same class of entity as whatever it is behind the curtain that you feel like is manipulating events in the world.
Oh, actually, you're much greater. The thing is, the ignorance that's been spread makes people naive to what is. So where I'm at in my consciousness, it's just like when I talk to people that want to do, medicine work. I never say don't do the medicine work. I'm like, okay, these are the benefits that I've experienced, and these are some of the pitfalls. there's there there's there's a range of possibilities and experience. It's not all good, it's not all bad, blah blah blah, right? We have to be nuanced in our conversation. Where I want my audience to go is like they not be naive to being like, "Oh, I'm psychic and that's why Instagram shows me shit." Maybe
I'm like that.
well, you were like that, but after this, you've been corrupted by me now in this discussion. Maybe half the time it's that way.
I'm good. I'm just gonna stick with my way of doing it.
Yeah,
No,
Tom Barnett's in the chat. What up?
Hey, all right. Tom Barnett. That's cool, man.
Yeah, man. I miss that
deal.
dude.
Yeah, well, I chose the metaphor of the dungeon master as like the language to describe this character because of the Dungeons and Dragons implication that you're all human beings sitting down to play a game, but one of you has taken on the role to be outside the game and making narrative decisions that affect the people inside the game and controlling the rules of the game or dictating the rules of the game and scaring the players and making them almost die or even killing them sometimes, all for the benefit of the players' enjoyment and experience. Like to me, that's even when we see dark types of synchronicity, like the Snake Eyes thing with the situation, to me, that's like the dungeon master is winking at people, like, how different people are going to react to that in different ways. But those little seeds of synchronicity, whether they're orchestrated by some kind of shadowy cabal, pre-programming movies for somehow that helps the ritual, or it's literally some kind of synchronistic wink from the nudge, nudge, wink, wink of the cosmic dungeon master or architect of it all, or demiurge or whatever. I look at it, from the perspective of that's my friend that is playing the dungeon master right now, and he's really good at it, and this is a sweet game. Not like simulation theory per se that it's fake, but that it's I just see it's the pronoia instead of paranoia, the sneaking suspicion that unseen forces are working for your benefit, even when they appear scary.
Well, there's both. There's pronoia and paranoia. So that's the thing is like you have both. Like as long as you know and you're in jurisdiction with your creator, you're going to be choosing the right path, right? But as you've already
like paranoia,
hold
I'm walking
on
through the streets
Stop!
of St. Louis at night, and like there's shadowy corners, and people I can only see their eyes and their teeth, and I'm paranoid. But on the cosmic, like cosmological level, I have pronoia. You know what I mean? So there's like levels of it. Depends on what level I'm looking at.
Yeah, the cosmic level is a duh. Like, of course, God has it on lock. But we're not living at the cosmic level. We are living at the human level of where there is boundary layers. And where there are boundary layers, evil is defined as those that would, supersede a boundary without permission. And that there is evil in this world. There are beings, there are things that are constantly seeking to make you semi-permeable, if not totally permeable, to actually corrupt you. Now, I'm not saying anybody's a victim. Once again, if a person has the capacity to be in total jurisdiction with their creator, their force field is great enough. They will not be permeable to that. They will not be suggestible. But there are people that are naive and extremely naive to the amount and effort that is out there to actually get you to choose against your best interests. And so that's why I bring up things like the personal area network and bring up tokenomics and all those things. Isn't to be scared of it, because once you know it, it's just like the reason why I build domes. I build domes because they're really resilient, because I saw the problem with stick-framed homes. So stick-frame homes are great in certain circumstances, but there's some
The
things.
sad thing is the people that are, in the net of the tokenomics you're talking about are the last ones that are gonna like comprehend what the hell you're talking about.
Oh, I get it, but there are
It's
people on the
sad.
fringes. You and I are only talking to the people on the very fringes.
What's
We're-
up, French folk?
What up, fringe? We're not actually talking to the. I'm. There's never going to be like a quadrillion people watching, a live stream.
Oh, I know it. Yeah, and that's why I'm always just like on the relentless, everything's gonna be fine vibe for those fringe people because so much of the fringe is, the scary unknown. So I just hold down that little side of it of it's all gonna be good. We're good.
I get it, but to me, that's a given. So there's no sense of even talking about it.
But it's
But-
not for everyone that's like surfing the fringe because on the road to awakening, it's super tempting and typical to make a pit stop in the nihilismville, and even though that's a given for you or for me, I think sometimes the people just need to still get that reinforcement, the ones that are surfing the fringe.
Well, the thing is you're not going to give somebody the peace of mind or anything like that. Like we can't ever put anybody in
True.
in a state of being where they're fully, just source, or they're fully permeable. That's not our role. At least I'll speak for myself. My role is to educate people on the fringe. Like, look, there's solutions to everything. If there's a problem out there, it's because God allowed the problem to be out there, which means there's a solution to everything. If you got this thing, like specifically what we're talking about tonight, like the cybernetic intrusion of thoughts and, syntho fields and whatever, yeah, that is a thing. We can't deny that that's not a thing. How do you actually get past that? You work with a guy like Chance that knows, what a fully coherent biofield feels like. You work with a guy like Gardner that knows exactly what the fascia should feel like when it's fully healthy. There are capacities, but I find it fun, like the mystery of, there's a problem there. I won't even call it a problem. There's a challenge that God's put out there. There's always going to be invading hordes. Like there's always going to be invading hordes, like forever. Because that's part of life, is learning how to establish your boundary, how to actually draw your line in the sand, stake your claim and say, you shall not pass, that's just one of the reasons why we're here. And
I think that's why I was going for I was drawn to the cowboy situation for that video too, because that's like, it's a symbol of exploring the fringe or the frontier. And my original metaphor with that too was, and I couldn't capture it with the video because AI struggles really bad with dice. But I wanted to get this concept of the 6-sided die and the 6-shooter. And there was going to be like a showdown at high noon, and their 6-shooters were going to like shoot dice or they were going to throw dice or something, but that just didn't work out. But, there's something very authentically enticing to the man energy of that sort of like warrior exploring the frontier,
yes.
and finding a place out on that frontier or fringe that is your little outpost, and I'm guarding it against the encroaching darkness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's something good about that. Feels great. Like that's the primary hero storyline, archetype. It feels good. Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, I mean, I love the challenge of it. Like whenever you build something for real, like whenever you're going to like go and build a business, or you're going to build a home, or you're going to build your kid's playset outside, there's a lot of effort that's needed. There's challenges that come up, and like to actually have enough intention and wherewithal and power to see it through and have the creation then be there. I mean, it is so fulfilling. And so if the boundary layers are too, let's just say, corrupted, like if let's just say if you have too many holes in your ship, the ship sinks. Like it is something to be so human to actually be able to have a fight, draw your line in the sand, win the fight, and then stand your ground. That is like, especially for us men, that is a very like, it's almost like it fortifies our stature. Like it, at least I'll speak for myself. It fortifies my stature. I think that's why I'm a serial entrepreneurist.
Yeah, man. We're gonna talk about Fomenko. You want to talk? We want to shift gears
No, well,
because it's on
yeah.
the title. It's on the title.
Yeah, so I originally reached out to you like 3 months ago. Geez, you're such a punk because you were.
I food poisoned myself. I ate old cheese out of the fridge that did not have a date on it, and I was vomiting. So
That was the last time. That was the
okay,
last
the other
time.
times I don't know why I couldn't do it. I forgot.
Yeah, yeah. I'm low on your priority totem pole. I get it. I understand.
Well, you could say that, or you could say that you're high on my priority totem pole because you're the first other person show I've done in like forever. And I'm gonna like start doing a little tour and get on some other shows and get
What's
back into the swing of things.
it's because I know where you live and I can really be a nuisance. I can bug you in just the right way. Yeah. So
I love that.
you're to me like the person that I lean into with etymology. With you'll get these rando messages from me about what does this mean in Greek or whatever. And I would say most of the time when I check your work, you're at least 90% correct. Um, and with that, I was really enjoying your conversation. I forget who I was with now because it was so long ago. But you were actually bringing up how it's hard for you to actually trace a lot of words because of all the shenanigans in the calendar. And I wanted you to elaborate on that.
Trace a lot of words because of the shenanigans in the calendar.
I'm
Did I
like,
say that?
well, I'm totally condensing things down. Like you didn't say it in that way. I'm saying it with my own flavor, but you're saying like how like a lot of times, words will be said and then like the historical narrative is such but that doesn't match like the how the word is actually like if you're to trace how it was said and where it was said. To me, that's proving out Fomenko because Fomenko is like, the majority of the history is just a rewrite. It's just a plug and play. It makes no sense. I've heard you at least on a dozen podcasts talk about that couldn't have been said then. You know what I'm saying?
So, if I was to unpack this sort of synthesized statement there of the language is hard to trace because of the calendar mishaps, what I would say is, rather than maybe calendrics being the issue per se, it's the chronological historical timeline presented by the mainstream and the narrative attached to that timeline. It does not fit well with the diffusion of language that we see. So like one thing that doesn't that is really hard to like fake, even if you're making up a story about history and controlling the printing of all the books, is you still don't have that much say over how regular people talk to each other in their native tongue. Especially if they're illiterate country folk, you can't just like write a new language system and be like, you have to speak this now. How are you going to reach all those people? You're not doing it through their literacy instruction, right? So one of the things that I guess that just pops into my head is the idea of Proto-Indo-European being some kind of, people throw that term around, pi, it's a pi language, etc. Like as if there's such a thing as a language that we don't know its name, but that we call it Proto-Indo-European. And there's all these, like on Wikipedia, if you look into Wikipedia linguistic pages that talk about, and it was this word in pi. And that's just made up. Like,
Hmm.
the problem is there's not a single real world artifact or inscription or anything concrete whatsoever to support the existence of pi,
Hmm.
right? And so every time you hear that brought up in a context of something historical, it is a construct to support the mainstream historical narrative where they are essentially taking artifacts they do have with inscriptions in various languages from different regions and whatnot. And what they do is they adapt their interpretation of physical archaeological stuff to fit a pre-existing narrative of history, and most of that narrative, it turns out, was made up around the time of the Renaissance. Now, like, I'm gonna show you. Let me just show you. Uh, Let me pull up my screen, and here's something that is not really discussed in the context of pi. Okay, wait. This is video. Let's show screen 2. Here we go. Okay, we all see this.
Yes.
This is the affinity between the Celtic language, Sanskrit, and Roman. So, as in Latin, I put Roman, I should have put Latin, sue me. But let's look here at, we have the Celtic word for a word is focal, Sanskrit, vak, Latin, vox, or vocalis. Now, when you look at those, you might not think they seem entirely the same, but when it comes to etymology, a tip, apart from just trying to memorize like letter swaps from one language to another, because that is useful, a tip is to just think about how your mouth is situated to say a certain sound. So, f, v, f, like where do your teeth go? Where do your lips go with f, f, and v? It's the same.
Hmm.
It's a very slight change in emphasis. So focal and vocal, same word, and Sanskrit vak. And so this, we don't have to go through the whole list, although this kind of list is useful to see some of the type of letter swaps that go on potentially.
Hmm.
But this is a list that shows how, it's probably 500 words between these three languages that in a philological sense are the same word, or they have such a similar root that it might as well be, they came from the same place.
Hmm.
So I'm talking like the people that populated the British island, those Celtic peoples,
Hmm.
and the people in modern day India, and the people of later Rome, they're speaking almost the same language. Like that's a very wide range of difference, but across even a big, supposedly swath of time as well, because these Celtic peoples and the Sanskrit language were supposed to predate the Latin language. So where did the Romans get it?
Hmm.
And then the weirder thing still about pi is it totally has zero context to understand the inscriptions of the ancient Etruscans, the people of the Italian peninsula that were before um, the Romans took it over. So when we talk about language not fitting the model of history, I think a really good place to consider how that works is when you're getting meaning out of words that is not necessarily the dictionary granted meaning, but it fits in a contextual or like almost an essence sense of the way it's being used. There's probably a reason behind that.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
That's
there's a little list of things that kind of connect those languages there as a philology example of how you can see letter swaps occurring across different cultures.
yeah. So this is like that's brilliant, and it's literally like a foreign language to my brain. Where I'm at with studying the differences in cultures is in architecture. And
Yeah.
so, because architecture is frozen music, it's like a frozen language, right? And
And it's
what's
the least fakeable aspect of history.
yeah, and
It's the
so
hardest to fake.
I really want to know if the Roman, like, or maybe it's Etruscan, maybe you've uncovered it, the pre-Roman, because the story of like the creation of Rome to me is such BS. But what they're calling Roman might have been Etruscan, especially when you look at some of the older architecture, because it was worldwide, it was everywhere. And so it really makes me wonder, because you're showing these similarities in language, if you did have essentially these master builders on every continent, essentially building, similar, if not facsimile structures that didn't fit like what we're like, told was the culture. And I'm being specific in saying what we're told the culture was. Um,
Yeah, I
it,
mean that whole, they call it Cyclopean architecture, and that's in everywhere from Peru to China, and
yes.
also the Italian peninsula. But that's that's the Etruscan architectural style. And I personally, until something more sensible is presented to me, I think that Dylan Sicocio's idea that the Etruscans are the Phoenicians that were
Hmm.
the universal priest class of Masons going around the world, I think that makes the most sense. And that's not Fomenko. Fomenko has like this whole other region of the world that he thinks is the like more of a Turkey region. But if you just look at the geography of it, I mean,
Hmm.
Italy is literally like that's the primo spot to be the gateway to the whole world potentially if you were seafaring people. So, to me that makes sense. And you find Etruscan artifacts everywhere that are like, undoubtedly archaeologically these are Etruscan style artifacts everywhere. Spain, North Africa, Germany, Belgium,
Hmm.
Luxembourg, all the into France, even not just the and if it helps people to not feel like it's just sort of Italo-centric,
Hmm.
it's because it's not. It's like this was just the hub of this culture or empire, but it's literally they were on a ethnicity level or whatever. We're talking about Celtic people, talking
Hmm.
about like blonde-haired, blue-eyed European type people, and again, like it's not the obviously politically correct thing in the mainstream. The politically correct thing is to destroy any possible belief in the idea that white people built civilization. But when we look at the infrastructure of civilization today, who's kind of guy behind that, it's a certain ethnicity of people that is pretty much architecting all that and
Yeah.
running all that, right? So why is it that crazy, to think that that was the type of people that were running the world of a previous world empire age?
Nope, not at all. I mean, I've lived all over the world, and I'll tell you what, in the more melanin-rich areas of the world, things are not on time and they're falling apart. In the
Well,
in the less melanin-rich areas of the world, things are on time and clean, and there's a totally different level of upkeep and pride in what's being created. So I'm right there with you.
yeah, and that's why the whole, most scholars have this opinion that the the systems of the world originate in India and then spread west. But go to India. What is
Yeah,
working there is Western stuff brought to them in
exactly.
terms of infrastructure and how things run. So, that one of the issues with the Etruscan artifacts being such evidence of a different history than the mainstream history is that they're gatekept through black market trade amongst like the nobility, essentially. And their
Hmm.
provenance is always sketchy when they do crop back up because they were kept in private collections, known as in provenance, like where it was found and in what context it was found originally in the ground or
Hmm.
whatever. So that's an issue with the archaeology of it all. But Yeah, I think that there's definitely a there, and who better to be the ones covering up the knowledge of that than Rome in the Renaissance era? you
Hmm.
know, like why it kind of makes sense. Like that, well, you're at the epicenter of this literal geographic location where your previous empire was situated. So you have the in the nobility the memory, if you will, and like family history and family knowledge of what came before the Holy Roman Empire. So who better to know exactly how to cover that up with this idea of Greek antiquity and all that,
Hmm.
which was just a sort of repackaging and
It's
bastardization
the
of a
same
lot of the
thing.
lore.
God, like the Greco-Roman, like gosh, looking at it, and
Yeah,
it's
the Greco part of Greco-Roman is like a veneer to hide the Roman part.
exactly, like just get rid of
yeah.
that. It's like that's not real at all. Um, yeah. So with Fomenko, what I found, because you're talking about the Romans, the Holy Roman Empire. I've done a few shows with Professor Longo, not Dr. Longo, but Professor Longo, who studied essentially the Eastern Roman Empire that was called the Byzantium, or the Byzantine Empire. And he was essentially has brought to my attention that the Byzantine Empire was essentially taken over in Constantinople. All these Etruscan and old Roman influences flooded back into Europe, and then that's what was called the Renaissance. And what I find interesting about that, and also how this ties into Fomenko, is that Fomenko is very adamant that pretty much the Jesuit, which to me is the Roman Catholic Church, the Jesuit writing of history was so, like, how should I say it, just so corrupted that this influence, like this very, very old influence that you're talking about that went east and then came back west, was kind of whitewashed. Like it was like literally like, no, the people that had the tech, the people that were good at seafaring worldwide, the people that could do the real Roman cement, they were all just kind of nothing to see here. This is the Dark Ages. And to the point where like Fomenko is like, yeah, our calendar can't be as long as they say it is, because number one, we don't have enough people here. Like there's just not enough people, like statistically. And two, just the level in which history has been written. There's too many mathematical anomalies that point to a fabrication to actually say, if you're just to take those out, the timeline gets compressed by quite a bit. Where are you
That's
at with
what
that?
made it so interesting. The guy that I was talking to his name was Michael Anthony Alberta. And I don't vouch for all the theories he puts forward in his book, but you could look at his book as, I don't mean to give that disclaimer like it's a bad book. It's a very interesting book. But you could look at his book as high octane speculation, running with the idea that not only, he's asking the question and then exploring and like coming up with a theory that supports the possibility that it's a cipher. Meaning, answering the question, why is, if you're these sort of like architects of chronology, wouldn't you just make up a new story for each of
Right.
these supposedly, like why would you have this symmetrical patterning from like this dynasty to that dynasty? Because it's not like the monks that are writing all this down are lazy or they have too much to do. You only have to do it once, so it's like it's not the worst project in the world. You could just make up a different story for each
Mm-hmm.
thing. So why is it like that? And his theory was that it's ciphered, and that he doesn't know the key to the cipher. But because of the era that a lot of this stuff is being spun out of, this Renaissance period was one of the things that was really big, and knowably so, was cryptography. Cryptography was really taking off. And so if what we know about cryptography from that era is so overt, how much cryptography was happening that we don't know about. And so the idea is that these patterns in the fake historical timeline somehow have a code to them that actually, to those who have the key, would tell you what the hell really happened and when, which the problem is we don't have that key. And so it's just an idea unless we were able to decipher that. And that's also the hell of cryptography, is like, good luck if you don't have the key. But
Yeah.
it's a wild idea. The other thing too with Fomenko that I think
Oh, you went.
one of his most important discoveries that is not disputable and is not theoretical is Fomenko's exposing Almagest. So there's a book called Almagest allegedly by Claudius Ptolemy, one of the many Ptolemies, that is, according to the mainstream, dates back to the 2nd century AD. And this is a star atlas, essentially, describing constellations, what they are, where they are, et cetera, et cetera. And Fomenko accurately argues that the content of Almagest, the catalog of the stars and the description of eclipses and et cetera, matches sky observations that would have to fit somewhere between the 11th to 16th centuries, as in 1,000 years later than the time period that it's actually associated with. So he goes through, he extracts all of the star longitudes listed by Ptolemy, he compares them with modern values, and then backwards adjusts them through the precession of the sky, precession of the equinoxes, to identify a range in which these reported coordinates would actually match real sky positions. And it's Middle Ages skies. It's not, the 2nd century AD that it's alleged to be. So, as he says, the stars do not lie, but historians do.
Yes.
It's that, to me, you can't debate that. That just shatters the reliability of something that's an absolute keystone to conventional chronology for so many reasons. Because first of all, it's saying this is our map of the constellations, the majority of the constellations as we know them today. They're thought to have the ancientness that they have because of Almagest. That's the old big daddy of the star catalogs. But that just goes back to the Middle Ages. And then you find out, like, well, what about all these mythologies that have, stories that are traceable astrotheology back to these constellations? Doesn't that mean that these constellations must have been that old, even if Almagest isn't that old? Yeah, but what's the oldest manuscript of, say, the Bible in terms of an astrotheological text? 1600s is the oldest manuscript of the Bible. Oops. It's not that old. It's not as old. I mean, there's no way to prove the Bible is as old as going back to the same exact time period Almagest is said to come from, or say Greek mythology that has all these astrotheological concepts in it. Well, the majority of these texts from antiquity that were all the rage during the Renaissance and were being sold for bags of gold after they were discovered. If we want, I could go through some of the key figures that people can investigate to get a grip on the faking of ancient texts that are supposed to be ancient Greek texts. These are also, so many of them we can actually reliably say were fabricated in the Middle Ages, in the Renaissance period, actually, later than the Middle Ages, really, that it becomes more likely that that's the rule, not the exception. So, again, all these things that seem to trace our current constellation framework as we see it way back to the way back when, like it's something super old, I cannot point to something that actually proves that those things are that old.
Right.
those constellations are that old. Not even things like the Dendara zodiac, in ancient Egypt. There's another argument to be made. I'm not the guy to make it, but I have entertained it and heard good arguments about it, that the stuff that's painted on the ruins in Egypt is painted on way later,
Yep.
like a movie set, So it goes kind of on and on, but like, yeah, there's any reasonable person that looks at the evidence from this perspective, it seems way more likely the inserted 1,000 years than not. Seems very likely. And that
Yeah.
does add a lot of credibility to your empire if
Yeah.
it's that old. Anyway, I'll stop. I could go on about any of those topics.
I love this topic because one thing I think both of our families share, your dad is a treasure hunter, right? Or at least he does that as like a hobby.
Yeah, he's a literal professional treasure hunter.
Has he ever gotten into the fraud of coinage?
No, I don't think that's really been his bag. He is kind of hyper focused. He likes the Civil War, and he likes to find artifacts from battles and Civil War camps. So he stays kind of on that, or gold. Likes to find gold, like panning and stuff like that. He has, though, I mean, it's nothing groundbreaking, but he has made discoveries that change the map of where troop movements were thought to have gone through our region and stuff like that. So, little things, but he's made some cool discoveries for sure. And he's all self-taught, so I like that as well. It's very inspirational.
That's wonderful. It runs in the family. My father, when he was alive, he was into collecting coins. And when he met my stepmother was from Thailand. And in Thailand, she came from a family of 15 kids. And the way they would accrue wealth was, they would make their money in the States, they'd fly back to Thailand, and they would buy gold, essentially, and jewelry, because it was so much cheaper over there. And then every few years fly back to the States and hoard like smog all their precious metals and things like that. And very quickly into it, my dad was seeing the fraud in the coin world, like in the collectible coins world. And man, it was so long ago. I remember taking a bunch of his coins to an estate sale and like going through it, and like the level of fraud, like when they talk about, oh, this was bullion found on this ship, or this is this over here, or this is this over there. It's all lies. Like it's amazing the level of lying that's going on out there in that world, where this is, X amount of years, or this was created here or there. There's so much fraud in that world, to the fact where I saw like on YouTube probably like 10 or 15 years ago, where this one gentleman was saying like it was upwards of like 85% of all the coinage out there was some sort of recreation or some sort of fraud of something that was supposedly older. Because just like you were saying with that very old Ptolemy book, for whatever reason, if it's older, it's more rare, and if it's more rare, it's more valuable, and it gives it more credibility. But at least in the coinage world, it's like most of it you can't actually trace back, because it's just not real.
The funny thing is, we're talking about forgery of antiquity, but we have left out from the conversation some of the why behind the forgery of antiquity. And a big part of it was to create justification for theology.
Yes.
So if you have, and that's where some of the forgers got caught, is because they would create forgeries to justify a dogma that they wanted to put forward, but it was not in line with what the rest of the church fathers wanted to do. So the other church fathers would be like, that's a forgery. And they would call them out on it, even though they're all doing that. But is the ones that are getting away with it are the ones that are creating forgeries that support some kind of ancient precedent for a theological idea or concept that they want for their society at that time. And then the why that relates to the coins is like, well, where do coins come from? coins come from the temples originally.
Yes.
The the first minting of coins, at least from what we know, and this is the hell of it all, is like, how do you separate the wheat from the chaff of what is and isn't accurate about the origins of things, and so take what I say with a grain of salt, that like I have one side of my head is filled with all of this knowledge of what history and antiquity was like, and the other side of my head is like, and it's all from forged sources, so I don't know. But the first coins were created as a tokenization that you received for making a sacrifice or an offering to the temple, and then you would trade that coin back to the temple for services like a supplication to the gods to not ruin your crops with flooding or whatnot. So all of this, coinage has a very religious context to it, and it still does today, because the state has never stopped being mingled with religion. The dead presidents that are on the coins and the bills are the mythological demigods of the when you look at the old coins, it was like, here's Demeter, or name the god or goddess, or they'll say that this coin has Alexander the Great on it, but he's got the ram horns on him, just like Jupiter Ammon. So I don't know, is that really Alexander the Great, or is that Jupiter Ammon, or is Alexander the Great a made-up guy that is a mythological demigod because he was born of a virgin that was impregnated by a snake, and so allegedly. So it gets it's all very intermingled, and so the fact that the world of coinage still to this day is so rife with forgery, it does not surprise me, because that's sort of par for the course. Is one of the key ways to justify a religious concept that you want to hold down or change is by saying, these people, or this respected individual that everyone knows was good, already had this idea, or they made it. It came from them. You pass it off on somebody else to like, and again, that's like such a freaking shifty thing to do, right? Like, you have no credibility yourself, or your credibility is sketchy, so you're like leeching others' credibility. And there we come right back to the very nature of the topic that you started with, which is the creditization of everything.
Yes.
It's all about the many layers of credit extraction.
Yes.
These foragers are all about extracting and redirecting credit for things. It's wild how that one little word, and even like a creed is a dogma, a creed is a belief system, or like tenets, and a creed, it's all kind of like in this one. It's like your belief is what is the foundation and currency through which you exchange with reality. Your creed, your credit.
Yeah, that makes so much sense to me. That makes so much sense.
I could show some of the Fomenko graphs
that'd be cool. Yeah, do that.
Because I think that was eye-opening for some people that saw that episode of mine.
Yes.
As Fomenko gets talked about, but like, what was this mathematician actually doing with his statistical chops? So if we look here, it's maybe not the easiest to read on a screen without zooming in a little bit. Let's see. So I'll try zooming it in. So Fomenko's books are just full of these type of graphs where he plots two different allegedly distinct time periods next to each other, and shows the statistically improbable similarity of the structure, chronologically speaking, in these dynasties. So we have on the right, the Third Roman Empire of the 3rd to 6th century AD, and on the left we have the Second Roman Empire, which is supposed to be the 1st century BC to the 3rd century AD. So, many hundreds of years separated, allegedly. And you get 5 years of the first ruler, whose name in both cases is Lucius. Huh.
Nice.
Lucius Sulla or Lucius Aurelius.
Must be
Okay.
Italian. All the same name.
Yeah, Lucius, which means light. So it's the let there be light. This dynasty begins. And then you have, after the 5 years of that guy, you get a year of confusion, which is like, time between rulers, essentially. Then you get, one gets Sertorius for 6 years, the other gets Probus for 6 years. Then we get 2 years of confusion again. And then we get Pompey the Great on one side. And on the right, you get Diocletian the Great. Wow, that is like remarkably similar. And it's for 6 years for each of them? Wow, what do you know? That's amazing. I'm sorry, that's 21 years for the greats. That's why they were great. They got 21 years. I'm getting off from the chart, but
yeah,
he was crushing, yeah. And then after Diocletian and Pompey, they each do a joint rule. Diocletian joint rules with Constantius, and Pompey joint rules with Caesar. And then, one is 11 years, and then the other is 12 years in their joint rule. And that's literally the first point of numerical divergence between these two. They've been exactly the same number of years up to this point for each segment, which is crazy. And I know that they say you can like tweak statistics to make it look like however you want, but bro, we have this is identical. This is an identical narrative structure of timing wise. This reads like a cipher. That's why I was so intrigued by the idea from Alberta, the guy I interviewed, because I was like, you know what? Why in the world else would you do this unless you were ciphering? Like this precision of it feels like a cipher. And so I don't know what the key to it is, but it just goes on like this. And if I zoom out, you can see how structurally it's very close to the same shape, for like 37 lines. And in these slides here, and we don't have to go through all that because it'd be too time consuming, but I actually went through the first, and I did this in the episode with the guy Alberta just in more detail, but I go through the first like 8 points of this graph and actually dive into what happened in those rules. Like, so if we go, we'll just do one for an example. If we go to Lucius Sulla, the first guy on the list, first 5 years, and Lucius Aurelius, Sulla is a Roman general who seized power through a civil war and held dictatorship before retiring voluntarily. Aurelius came to power during the crisis of the 3rd century as a military figure. And so both basically were military figures, generals who took power after a war, So thematically, warlord becomes a reformer that sets a reform that creates a new empire, And then it goes on like that where the actual storyline of the 5 years, 1 year, 6 years, 2 years periods is very similar. It's very similar to, not like identical, but you'll find that like the guy that fits each of these line items has something or several things in common that are really specific. So, that's what Fomenko, and that's just a slice. Literally, just as a sampling, I just took one of Fomenko's graphs out of the many examples that he's put forward in his mini books of this type of thing. Here's a couple other graphs, what they look like. He was doing this all over the freaking place. What blows my mind is where he has the capacity to think, let's compare this dynasty to that dynasty, because there's a lot of damn dynasties in the course of this historical framework. And here's one of the biblical kingdom of Judah versus the Roman Eastern Empire. Like he's finding that these match up just like the last thing we looked at. So anyway, I just took one arbitrarily without picking or choosing to try to get a good one, literally arbitrarily, and made those deeper dives into the correlation between each of the line items. And I was like, my God, this matches up. So I was very impressed with that.
Yes.
And the depth of Fomenko's work in terms of the sheer page number volume, and also the sort of the language barrier of the fact that it's translated from Russian, and not just translated from Russian, but it's translated from highly technical jargon, college professor statistician language, Russian, to English, makes his work difficult to penetrate. But if instead, I recommend anyone that's curious about him and wants to like help us get a grip on this shit, because there's so much to it, that wants to try it the way I did it, where you find, just flip through find the pictures in the book, the
Nice.
graphs, find the graphs, and just look at it line item by line item, and just see like, is there a there? Are these things actually similar? And it turns out that the ones that I have investigated more closely for sure were. So it's really interesting. Fomenko's onto something.
That's so good. I got into Fomenko in 2010 because I was reading this other Russian scientist, Viktor Grabevnikov. And it was after like my neighborhood in Costa Rica was flooded with all the Anastasia books and the Ringing Cedar. So I had this flood of like Russian
The old Anastasia cult.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
I mean,
they're good folks. It's a good cult. I like it.
well, just the notion of like, if you had your own hectare, you could be self-sufficient. That was a great message. But I just remember that time in my life. It was just so cool because and this is just a personal thing, I'm not saying I'm correct, but I had really bad run-ins with people, with guys that went to Jesuit schools. And so when he was like bringing up the whole Scaliger thing and like the Jesuit, I was just like, that kind of fits like the feeling I got with these like, academics that were, essentially Jesuit trained academics. And so I kind of glommed onto his work essentially around that. And it just made sense to me. Also because I'd seen censuses. I'd been part of a census in Florida in 2000 and a census in Costa Rica in 2010. And in both censuses, it was a flat out lie when the results came out the next year. Like they were lying about how many people were there. And so I really found the data points around population growth to be very intriguing to me with his work.
Another person, well, okay, I'll just reiterate. What I think is left on the table with Fomenko, and I'm not saying I'm the guy to do it. I don't know if it is doable, but we are in the age of large language model AI, and there's maybe a way to get there. There's literally, they call it in hacking language, it's a brute force attack. Like we may be able to brute force attack the cipher. And what I would like is, I'm trying to spread that idea that we need somebody with programmer hacker skills to take Fomenko's work and try to crack the cipher aspect of it. Because that was not Fomenko's idea. Fomenko was just showing you there's this pattern, history is fake and gay. We're like, great. What do we do with that, Anatoly?
Yeah.
And so the next level of the idea is it's a cipher. Let's crack the cipher. What is the underlying pattern, that we might be able, because how do ciphers work, right? There's substitution ciphers. There's deletion ciphers. Like what if the cipher is somehow the key has to do with like, you just delete every 5 line items or something like that. Like what if it's a substitution cipher where every time you see this theme or this number, it actually means this number, and it's just about shrinking things down, or like, I don't know, but we need to attack this. We need to attack this from a code breaker perspective, because that's the big epiphany is like, what, there must be a reason these figures that would have put this history out there are feasibly too smart to just be lazy about repeating things just because they're not creative. Then again, could be wrong. The nature of evil is to be scavenging and non-creative. So maybe they had to do it that way because they just didn't have the inspiration behind the work. But maybe it's a code. That would be cool. I would like to think.
I think it could be both.
Yeah,
I-
I'd like
I-
to think that there's somehow in this noise that there's a signal that we could extract.
Yeah.
You know, because I like the idea that truth is always in the room. And I think that could apply to the truth about where we came from, and the true story of history is somewhere in the room with us. You know,
Definitely.
like how do we get the signal out of the noise there?
Yeah, well, the truth in architecture, once again, is like the artifacts that you find from quote unquote the first AD, the first century AD to 800 AD, they're exactly the same. So there's in like 5 years of building with natural products, you're going to change what you're doing and how you do it. Even when things get standardized, they're only standardized for maybe 30 or 40 years before you change what you're doing. There's no way that they would have been doing the same thing 700-800 years later in building. That's just not that's not. Nobody can lie to me about that. So,
So they came from a similar era.
yeah, it was the exact
Yeah,
same thing. In fact, what the historians will tell you is like, oh, they were doing the what is it called? The artisanian classical version of what they were doing back then. They were taking the old roofing shingles from the first century and redoing these newer buildings with those old roofing shingles. Get out of here. No, incorrect. That's not what they were doing. That's a lie. And so and when you look at the stratigraphy of things, like I had Mike Wilkerson, like we did a live stream this morning.
I saw that you're double dosing.
Double dipping, dog. What? So what?
Takes energy, man. Shout out to Mike. Stellium
Yeah.
7. He's such a cool dude.
He is, and you came up actually. So I sent him a little note. I said like he can do the brute force attack that you're talking about, because he just released it. He just released his
the
book.
OG hacker. Yeah.
Exactly. Get him back on the horse there. But
When he told me that, he's like, "Yeah, I was the first person to go to jail for hacking." I was like, "Shut the front door." Really? That's
yeah,
so cool.
when you see the video of him, man, like see the young Mike is just like, no way, you had hair. That was awesome.
What an incarnation. That guy gonna have a fun life review.
Yeah, definitely. He's a great dude. We've had a chance to hang out in person a couple times. Which actually
speaking of
exactly
in-person things.
Exactly, I'm about to bring that
Because
up.
I was like, I'm running low. I'm getting towards the end of my tank. I'm
Okay.
doing great, but like, let's make sure we get everything that we intended in here.
Okay, so for everybody that's here, what do we got? We got over 70 people watching. This is the first official announcement of the Elementals Gathering, the Elementals Festival here in Mountain Grove, Missouri. We're going to be having that May 8th through the 10th, and Chance Garton, yours truly, is going to be speaking, and he's going to be our MC. And Gabriel, you better come. You were supposed to come and hang out with me during the Great Eclipse. You did not, and I'm not going to forgive you if you don't come and hang out with us in May. Because we're having all the killers. We're having Marty Leeds. We're having Emily Moyer. We're having Tom Barnett. We're having Owen Benjamin. We're having Alex Zek.
Oh,
We're having Chris Winters of the Fertile Current. We're having Adam Stevens come and speak. We're having Amy Hamilton of Native I think I always get their name wrong. They're a big permaculture thing here. We're having such a killer lineup of people. It's going to be held at the Barataria Campgrounds, which is like a 100-acre farm where we have some pretty good infrastructure set up. And my man Chance, I'm so glad that you're coming. And I wanted people to get your vibe, because you're so positive and you're so good with keeping the vibe going. You're the perfect MC that I could think of.
Man, I am really, truly stoked. First of all, that even if I wasn't invited to be participating in the event, I would want to go to this.
Yes.
it's great to capitalize on the infrastructure that land scam has offered us.
Yeah, it's the best landscape I've ever been a part of. I love
I
it.
know I've never been scammed for land where then we got to use the land as
Yes.
promised by the scam. It's
Yeah, yeah.
amazing. So thanks Owen for, because without Owen we'd have to be like renting some other space or whatever. So thanks Owen for being the tent pole that allows us to do this type of event on this beautiful land. And, the
Yes.
Beartaria Festival was so awesome this year. I've been to every Beartaria Festival, so
Yes.
I consider myself very attuned to that spot.
Yeah.
it's it's so cool there. Like there's just a vibe to it that is palpable, an energy to that little pocket of the world that gets bigger every time we come and stomp on the ground together there. So
Yeah.
the fact that we now have a new event that is going to utilize that space is so cool. I think
Yeah.
when you first told me about this, I was imagining that we would be renting out some kind of event space in town where I live. So the fact that we're actually going to be more in a nature environment for this, I think, is much better. It allows for, sort of a feeling of like our own little bubble of energy and connection to a land feeling. So that's great, and I think it will also entice a lot of the bear community who know exactly where to drive to
Yes.
and know that that's a cool spot, because people are coming from all over for Beartaria,
Yeah.
and that's for community as much as it is for gravy, probably more for community, but that's once a year. So the fact that we have this opportunity where we really put the emphasis on gravy, I think that's going to be super cool. So just I feel absolutely grateful and honored that I somehow already existed in the spot where all this bear action started to accumulate, and like you moved here and Marty moved here. I'm like, did I manifest this? Because I'm from here. I never went anywhere. This is where I'm born. So it's kind of to me it's like miraculous. I'm so lucky and
Yeah.
blessed. So I've never emceed anything before, but I like to be looked at and forced to be paid attention to. So the fact that I
Nice.
would get to do that between everyone else's thing and kind of like draw a little bit of their
Yeah.
sparkle towards myself, I'm into that. So thanks for that.
Awesome.
And it's going to be a great opportunity. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to meet all the people, not just the speakers, but the people that are going to attend. Super cool.
Yeah, I spoke with Kyle Denton at length today. He's really excited to come and spend time with you and your family.
My
And-
man.
Yeah. He's going to be giving a workshop. Chris Winters is going to be giving a workshop. I'm going to have those two fight each other in what I'm calling the octopod. It's the version of the octagon, but for content creators, where it's a fight, not to the death, but to like the intellectual death, where you just take it out. I have you versus Eileen McCusick. I figured that you both
I
could
will
like,
be killed.
yeah, exactly.
I will be slaughtered.
You guys could like vibrate your little tuning forks and the.
Well, I have a bigger tuning fork. My
But
tuning fork is
it's not the
significantly
size.
larger.
It's not the size of the tuning fork.
I'm aware that I'm going to be trying to just brute force it with the size.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a good thing, man. I'm super stoked to have earlier we were talking about some things that are kind of like crappy, but this whole thing is about solutions. It's about correctly diagnosing what is so, and this is how we beat it. This is how we move forward. And we get to be human. We actually get to hang together. And a big emphasis when I was creating this is that we have a lot of really good music. So Jorge Mesa's coming in. He's gonna be jamming. We're gonna have Marty jamming. Matt Presti's gonna be jamming. Of course, Big Bear's gonna be jamming. Tempo Bear's coming in. He's gonna jam. So we're gonna have some really good music going. We're gonna have like really good hands-on like learning, because it's that good spring energy. It's that good Taurian spring energy that will be there. So lots of hands in the dirt. We have plenty of great spaces for the kids to play in a very controlled environment, and it's just going to be a great analog to the Barataria Festival, which next year will be held in October. So I'm super
Really,
great.
October next year?
Yeah, they're moving it to October, to Columbus Day.
Cool, changing it up.
Yeah. So because the fall,
People like that because October in this part of Missouri, especially if it's like earlier October, it is delightful.
yes,
Like the temperatures and stuff. It's the perfect time of year for a festival. Because, you might on the other side of the year in spring have similar temperature situations, but more likely to get stormed on.
right.
So like that little pocket of October is really good. It's just a lot of love right there. So cool, man.
Yeah, man.
So
I
you
am.
confirmed Kyle.
Yeah.
Tippecanoe Herbs.
Yeah,
I'm
today, in
dropping this
fact.
link in the chat. Everyone that's never been, get into tippecanoeherbs.com right here and just check out some of his medicines. This is the literally highest vibrational integrity herbalist that exists on Earth and maybe in the history of Earth.
Where did you drop it?
Like-
I don't see it. Did you drop it yet?
Oh, I dropped it in the YouTube. Am I not a wrench? Can I not put a link in? I tried to put it in.
I didn't. I
The
don't
YouTube
see.
chat. First of all, I should have a wrench.
I don't even know how to do that. How do I give you a wrench?
What kind of amateur hour live streamer is this? You
Totally.
click on the three little dots
Okay.
and you say make moderator.
Moderation activity. It doesn't say make moderator on my side.
Are you not logged into the account that you stream with?
I totally
This
am.
channel? Are you logged in at this channel? Yeah, you appear to be. Well, only God can help you. But
You've said
Go to
something before. I saw you put something else in there.
tippecanoeherbs.com. Just people looking for it that way, but it's such good stuff. And I do have a coupon code, Kyle. I can get you 10% off this good if you use InnerVerse as your code. The teas, man. Like right now I'm sipping on a tea from Kyle. It's called Eau de Yodel, like EAU, like water. It's called Yodel water. But
Nice.
it's this excellent. I think it's got some marshmallow and some. I don't even know off the top of my head what's in this tea. I'm a bad friend, but
You're the worst.
it just gives your voice this quality of smooth and lubricated, and like you talk for 2
Nice.
hours and you don't even get scratchy or dried up. Like it's the best sitting and having a chat with your homie tea
Yeah.
or giving a talk or presentation or whatever. So there's just all of its great medicines. So Tippecanoe Herbs, I want to make sure you guys know about it. That should be your pharmacy right there.
Yeah, we're going to be making bespoke. Well, I'm making it, and then he's going to help me label it correctly. Bespoke biochar, and because each, depending on like what I'm actually making, what I'm pyrolyzing, that has a different essence to it, just like a homeopathic remedy. So we're coming up with this line of remedy-based biochar. So that's going to be really exciting to bring to market.
Cool, man. Liam says, Chance always looking like he just woke up. I made my hair like this on purpose. I put effort into this.
I like that. I like that look. It serves you well. Yeah, Mike New. I am a runner and gunner. Well, Chancey Poo, let's go to our families. It's great to see you. Thank you so much to everybody in the chat. Thanks for coming out. Check
Thanks
out.
for inviting me and helping me break the old, hiatus on live streaming. It's been a long time since I was live and direct. This was a lot of fun. I feel the energy. You have a great
Awesome.
audience.
Yeah,
You're a good guy. I love you, buddy.
I love you too, man. You've always been a breath of fresh air. So you did actually inspire me to get back into the podcasting game, and I'm glad I've done it because that's actually what's allowed this whole festival to come about. So it's good stuff.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
No, you did it all. Like, you're the man. Okay. Thanks for